This week we'll explore yoga. Everyone has heard about yoga, but many people don't understand what it is. The basic goal of yoga is to bring the mind and body together in harmony and to transcend to a place where the practitioner achieves enlightenment. The origin of yoga can be traced back to ancient India, possibly as far back as 5,000 years ago. The word yoga was first mentioned in the Rig Veda, the oldest volume of a collection of chants and mantras that defines yoga as yoking or discipline. This document was written between 1700 and 1200 BC. In another volume, yoga is referred to as a means of harnessing or yoking and focused on the controlling of one's breath and other physical activities. It is said that in ancient times, yoga was introduced to a group of men who worshipped a wind god. These men composed and performed songs and melodies to honor their gods. They found they could sing better and hold notes longer if they practiced a type of breath control. This is the first mention of any physical action being part of a discipline or practice. The original focus of yoga was on the spiritual development of practices that trains the body and the mind to self-observe and become more aware of their own nature. The purpose is to cultivate awareness, self-regulation, and a higher consciousness. The evolution of yoga is generally held to be contained over 5 primary periods. These are the Vedic yoga, pre-classical yoga, classical yoga, post-classical yoga, and modern yoga. Vedic yoga revolves around the idea of sacrifice as a means of joining the material world with the invisible world of the spirit. This belief dates back to the early origins of yoga. To perform these rituals successfully, the sacrificer had to be able to focus their mind for prolonged periods of time. Such inner focus for the sake of transcending the limitations of the ordinary mind is the root of yoga. Pre-classical yoga covers an extensive period of time, from approximately 2000 years BC until about the 2nd or 3rd century AD. The earliest manifestations of pre-classical yoga were still closely associated with the Vedic sacrificial culture. Until around the 2nd century AD, yoga was a collection of structured but independent and unrelated practices. Around this time, the writings of Patanjali, a yoga sage who produced what is called the 8 limbs of yoga, the first systematic presentation of yoga. The first limb, yama, has to do with one's ethical standards and sense of integrity, focusing on our behavior and how we conduct ourselves in life. Yama can best be described as the golden rule, to do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Niyama, the second limb of yoga, has to do with self-discipline and spiritual observances. Regularly attending temple or church services, saying grace before meals, developing your own personal meditation practices, or taking long walks alone with your thoughts are all examples of niyama in practice. Asana, the positions practiced in yoga, comprise a third limb. In yoga, your body is a temple to your spirit, and the care of it is an important stage in our spiritual growth. Through the practice of asana, or positions, we develop the habit of discipline and the ability to concentrate, both of which are necessary for meditation. Pranayama is generally translated as breath control. This is the 4th limb and consists of techniques designed to gain mastery over the respiratory process while recognizing the connection between the breath, the mind, and the emotions. Pratyahara, the 5th limb, means withdrawal or sensory transcendence. It is during this stage that we make a conscious effort to draw our attention away from the external world and outside stimulus, enabling us to better focus on our inner self. As each stage in yoga prepares us for the next, the practice of pratyahara creates the setting for dharana, or concentration. Having relieved ourselves of outside distractions, we can now deal with the distractions of the mind itself. Here, we focus our attention on a single point for as long as possible, with extended periods of concentration naturally leading to meditation. The 7th limb is dhyana, a state of uninterrupted concentration. Although concentration, dharana, and meditation, dhyana, may appear to be one and the same, a fine line of distinction exists between these two stages. Where concentration practices on one-point attention, meditation is ultimately a state of keen awareness, but without focus. At this stage, the mind has been quieted, and in the stillness it produces few or no thoughts at all. The strength and stamina it takes to reach this state of stillness is quite unique. The 8th and final stage of classic yoga is samadhi, a state of ecstasy. At this stage, the meditator merges their point of focus and transcends the self altogether. The meditator comes to realize a profound connection with the divine and the interconnectedness of all living things. With this realization comes the peace that passes all understanding, the experience of bliss and being one with the universe.